39. They can hear me, I assume. Hello, welcome everyone. 51. Good. So the link that I sent out worked. That's first good sign there. All right, 103. You can hear. Good. Thank you, you Owen. Appreciate it. So as people
But can you see?
as people are sort of filing in, so to speak, just want to welcome everyone. Say we're going to take another second, let everyone log on. Joe Gurgis, one of the artists, says audio works. Hello all. David and Steffi, can you see the chat? Or
Yes.
You can. Let me see. Great. Yeah, we'll give everyone another minute here, and then we will rock and roll. I also want people to note that there is a chat function. My mom just said hello from Chicago. Thank you, Mom. And there is also a Q&A function. So this is a needlepoint ornament by my mom. Shout out to Mary Ellen Fishburne. And this is a Dunkin' Donuts ornament, also from my mom. We'll talk about Dunkin' Donuts on another Zoom event. But notice, yeah, there's a Q&A. So any actual questions, regarding stained glass, Judson Studios, Forest Lawn Museum, etc., you can put in the Q&A, and we will get to as many of those as we can. Yeah, I'll give it another minute here. We had about 300 RSVPs. Sometimes just because you ask for an RSVP, you don't always show up. I've been guilty of that myself, but we've got 129 people, so let's wait a little bit longer. Now's a good time to pour yourself a glass of wine. My beer is in the fridge for after the event.
Oh, wait.
Quick question to the audience: is everyone seeing the questions, or are we only seeing these? Only I'm seeing them. All of us?
Yes, I think there's an option to write to all panelists and attendees.
Oh, gotcha.
There's a number of options here.
Okay, people are seeing them. Okay.
Oh, okay.
All right. Great. Yeah, that's you're seeing them in the Q&A. And notice again, there's a Q&A function as well as a chat function, which is different. Okay, great. All right, it's 7:04, so let's get started here. Welcome everyone, and thank you so much for taking the time to join us for this special virtual event tonight. I'd like to introduce myself and my fellow panelists and let you know about our itinerary for the evening. So I am James Fishburne. I'm the director of Forest Lawn Museum. I'm an art historian and I'm the curator of this exhibition, Judson Studios Stained Glass from Gothic to Street Style, which will open at Forest Lawn Museum as soon as indoor museums in LA County are allowed to reopen. I'm joined by David Judson and Steffi Nelson, co-authors of the new book, Judson Innovation in Stained Glass, which is published by Angel City Press. And it is gorgeous. I mean, the pictures are amazing, incredible color photography. The text is amazing. We'll be talking about that some. So I'm a huge fan. In fact, if you would like to purchase it, I'm going to right now put in the chat. This is to panelists and attendees. I'm putting a link in the chat for how you can purchase the book. Please, if you're going to purchase it from Angel City Press, from this website. They're a local company. Help support them. It's better to purchase it from Angel City than from any sort of online global juggernaut. So please support Angel City. They're really a great company. The exhibition, you can see the poster behind me, was originally timed to coincide with the release of the book. And I think we all know how that turned out. But still really excited to have the book out and really excited to get to speak with David and Steffi tonight. And let me introduce the two panelists. You probably have at least some familiarity with them. So David Judson is the president of Judson Studios and the 5th generation of his family to lead the studio since it was founded in 1897. He oversees the studio's creative process, and he works with architects, designers, and artists who turn to Judson for their legendary work in stained glass. In 2015, he opened the 2nd Judson Studios facility, which incorporates innovative fusing technology, and we'll talk about more about that later, that allows fine artists to express their vision in glass. David is also the president of the Stained Glass Association of America, and he lives with his family in Pasadena. Steffi Nelson is an LA-based writer and editor whose work focuses on spirituality, art, fashion, entertainment, books, architecture, and design. Raised in the suburbs of New York City, she moved from Brooklyn to LA in 2005. She's contributed to the New York Times, the LA Times, LA Review of Books, and W Magazine, among others. And she was the editor-in-chief of Pasadena Magazine from 2011 through 2013. In addition to co-authoring Judson Innovation in Stained Glass, she recently edited the essay collection Slouching Towards Los Angeles, Living and Writing by Joan Didion's Light, published in February of 2020 by Rare Bird Books. So thank you and welcome both David and Steffi. Now for the sort of brief itinerary. So first I'm going to take a few minutes to walk you through the exhibition, and then I'll turn to David and Steffi. I actually began working on the exhibition, believe it or not, almost 2 years ago, and I have a lot of questions for them. You're welcome to add your questions. Again, please add your questions in the Q&A function, not the chat. And time permitting, we'll get to as many of those questions as possible. We're going to go till around 8:15. I have a Zoom premium account, kind of a big deal, so we're not going to get cut off. But we will. 8:15 is the scheduled time, so I won't keep you all night. And then regarding the exhibition, so some of you might not know that Forest Lawn Museum is located within Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale. And our exhibition encompasses 2 of the museum's 3 galleries, and it has nearly 100 objects, plus a sort of appendix in the building next door, the enormous Hall of Crucifixion Resurrection. The exhibition, it's divided chronologically and thematically, kind of like the book. And also like the book, it covers the 120+ year history of Judson Studios. And there are more than a dozen objects in the exhibition that are also covered in the book, including some of the things right here on the back cover are in the exhibition. So with that, I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to walk you through the exhibition and give you a sneak peek inside Forest Lawn Museum. So give me 1 second here. I'm going to share. I'm going to optimize. Let's see, is that optimized? It's already optimized. All right. Then I'm going to maximize. So everyone should see essentially the poster on the screen. You see David and Steffi, you see that right there? Okay, great. So the poster art there, it's a work by Marco Zamora, and we'll cover that. That's in one of the later sections of the exhibition. And we begin here with two incredible watercolors from local churches in Los Angeles. And the one on the left there that we're going to zoom into is actually St. James Episcopal Church. This is from the early 1920s. The church is in what is now Koreatown. And just the incredible striking detail of these watercolors is really impressive. So it's nice to have them on the sort of welcome wall of the exhibition. And then the first major section is Judson Studios, the early years. And we begin with some of the early photographs. Right here we have William Lees Judson, who is the always dapper founder of Judson Studios. He founded it with 3 of his sons. If you think he looks a little bit like Mark Twain, he was born just about 10 years after him. So that gives you a sense of his timeline there. And he was a plein air painter. And he also did some stained glass. And this is actually a watercolor for a stained glass signed right there in the corner by W.L. Judson. This is one of the earliest pieces in the exhibition. And this right here is actually the earliest Judson window in the exhibition. It's in the early 20th century. And the face, it's this really stunning polychrome angel face. And the rest of the figure, the sort of gown and drapery, are actually opalescent glass, which is this sort of milky, iridescent style, sort of mastered by Tiffany Studios in the late 19th, early 20th century, really popular during that time period. And the artist who did this actually, A.E. Brain, actually came from Tiffany Studios. Take a look at the sort of stamens of the flowers there. They're actually 3-dimensional metal. So a lot of really neat details in these artworks. And then these are 2 works, a watercolor and a window by a guy named Frederick Wilson. And he was actually the head liturgical designer for Tiffany Studios in New York for many, many years. Then he spent the last decade plus of his career in Los Angeles working with Judson Studios, really sort of daring use of light and light, color, and line. Really, really impressive. So we have a watercolor right there, and then right next to it, we have a memorial window, really beautiful colors there. And then I wanted to sort of give viewers a sense of the process of stained glass. And so we have the full color design, watercolor by Frederick Wilson there, but then we also have full-scale cartoons. On the right, that's a full-scale cartoon next to a stained glass window. So it shows you, a little bit the steps in making stained glass. And I love the really nice line work there, and then the sort of full Technicolor stained glass window. The one portion of the exhibition that is not by Judson Studios is already installed in the museum walls. Forest Lawn Museum has a collection of medieval and Renaissance stained glass that we purchased from Hearst Castle in the 1950s. So we have sort of 3 full walls. That's 2 of them, and we'll see the third one in a second. And these are pieces that range from the 1300s all the way to the 1600s from France and Germany. These are some of the later Renaissance pieces. This is about 12 feet tall, really, really striking. And it was great to be able to compare, Judson's traditional liturgical style with actual sort of Gothic and Renaissance stained glass. This is sort of the masterpiece of the group. This is called the Dürer window. And it's done based on drawings by the German Renaissance artist Albrecht Dürer. And if you're not familiar with him, he's sort of the Leonardo da Vinci of Germany. He was just a real high point in German Renaissance. His draftsmanship was just absolutely incredible. The details on the faces are just really, really impressive. So it's nice to kind of compare and contrast those to the Judson pieces. Then the next section is style in the early 20th century. And we're looking at sort of the Beaux-Arts style and the arts and crafts style. This triptych right here, these 3 roundels, have never before been exhibited. And I love getting up close with this one, these beautiful sort of coral colors of her robes, the really ornate Beaux-Arts style, the sort of classical elements that you'd see in, a grand hotel, or, a grand library or something like that from, late 19th, early 20th century. And that was a style Judson worked in a lot in the early 20th century. A couple of domes right here. I love these little touches of white gouache, this sort of flecks of paint on there. It's the light sort of darting through the ceiling there. And then sort of looking directly from below, another design for early dome. And then this is actually a photo in the exhibition of a dome by Judson Studios in the Natural History Museum in Exhibition Park. And this is a later dome. They've done a lot of domes throughout the history. This is in the 1970s, and this was done by Marion Sampler, prominent abstract artist who worked with Judson Studios on a couple projects. This and also Pacific Coast Plaza, actually the shopping center. These are some of the arts and crafts style drawings and windows. The one on the right here, it's actually the carp window. And I love this detail of the bubbles in the glass. It's literally the bubbles that the fish seem to be exhaling are actual bubbles, mouth blown into the glass. And then the reeds are the lead. So the sort of material elements and the subject matter really sort of come together in a very clever way. And then we look at glass in the modern era as we step into the next gallery. We're looking first here at Frank Lloyd Wright and then the Air Force Academy sort of mid-century chapel. This is a window from the Ennis House, and we have it mounted in an LED frame. And I took this photo right here of it on the wall, and it really appears to be sort of just floating on the wall. So I'm really pleased with how things look in the gallery. These are a few photos by Alexander Verdikov, who's a really talented architectural photographer. It's a Hollyhock House and the Ennis House. And then these right here are pieces from the Air Force Academy Cadet Chapel. Instead of stained glass, the chapel uses what's called faceted glass or slabs of glass, dalle de verre. These dalles are literally French for slab. And it's just thousands and thousands of pieces of glass, slabs of glass. They were put in these sort of cassettes, and these cassettes were hauled up onto the exoskeleton of this space age chapel. You can see some of the workers from these archival photos. And the end result is stunning. It's almost like if you said, make a Gothic church, but do it for Star Wars. It's sort of like this, the most literal way you could do that. It's a really stunning church. It's under renovation now. And Judson actually is working on the window. So I'm curious to hear how that's going, David. And then the next part of the exhibition is called the Fusing Revolution. And this has been a big part of Judson Studios for the last few years. This is the face of Christ. It's 5 feet tall, and it is the original trial piece for the Resurrection window, which is the biggest project Judson's done. It's nearly 100 feet wide. It's for this enormous church in Kansas. And instead of simply painting on glass, this is two of the artists, Tim Carey on the left and Narcissus Quagliata on the right. Instead of simply painting, you're actually taking granulated glass or frit and you're mixing it, and then you're melting that together, and it's literally fusing together in the kiln. This is a huge technological and sort of stylistic jump. And so it's great to have that original trial piece for the face of Christ. And you can see this is the installation of it. And then this is as Tim and Narcissus are working on it in the studio. And when Tim was finished with that project, he was so tired of working on liturgical subject matter that he turned to a personal passion, which was the LA Lakers. And he did this window in fused glass of Kobe Bryant. And this was done right after Kobe retired in 2016. And we actually did choose for this to be we selected it for the exhibition actually prior to Kobe passing away. And it's a nice way to be able to honor him to include this in here. It's a really sort of stunning portrait. And then these are a series of domes done by Narcissus and Judson Studios. And the large piece in the center, this is actually the original watercolor for the dome that you see on the right there. And this is a fully fused glass dome. So it's not painted glass, it's fused glass, water jet cut, sort of like they did every single cutting edge technique and threw it at this project. And the result is very cool. And then these are a couple other pieces by Narcissus. Narcissus is sort of the godfather of fused glass, the sort of elder statesman of the fused glass world. He's also, I believe his title is the director of innovation, I believe, for Judson Studios. And a lot of his work is sort of sci-fi or fantasy infused. And these two pieces are from his Mediterranean Treasures series, and it's reimagining ancient Greco-Roman statues submerged underwater and sort of being taken over by the elements. And then the next part is called Stained Glass Remixed. And for about 5 minutes, this was going to be the title of the exhibition. Actually, I believe Andrea and Kyle, a couple of employees, staff members at Judson, actually said, "Oh, it's like Stained Glass Remixed." And we're like, "That's such a cool idea." And then we're like, "That doesn't actually cover the whole exhibition." So we used it as a section. But I really love this part of the exhibition. This is the piece by Marco Zamora that's on the poster. And it was chosen for the poster because it so quickly encapsulates brand new cutting edge techniques and very old, very traditional. You have the Latin script, the Gothic style, amor fati, that means love of fate or love your fate. And then you have this sort of bright, almost like gumball style in very close up in the child's clothing. These are a couple pieces by a guy named Elmac or Miles McGregor. He's a graphic artist, a muralist, a graffiti artist, and his line work is just absolutely stunning. Look as you get closer here. I mean, he's clearly a figurative artist, but when you get close, like it's almost these little sort of whirlpools of lines. It's really delicate work. And then the next piece is an enormous piece by David Flores, who's also a muralist. The piece is actually entitled The Muralist, and you can see the respirator around the neck, sort of staring up at the creation. David he's a real character, and he got to start in sort of skateboard art and graffiti and murals, and he has this sort of segmented styles. All of his work sort of has these black segmented lines, so it translates really well to stained glass. And then this little pooch on the side there, David texted me one day and he said, "Hey, are you at the museum? I'll be there in 20 minutes. And he's like, "Here you go." And that's how this piece got in the exhibition. I think it's so bright and vibrant. It's a Swarovski crystal covered dog, but it really does sort of show off his very sort of over the top bright style. Here's an up close view. You can see the lead lines in there. So it's sort of traditional stained glass elements. And then the back, you get this fused glass, sort of swaths of fused glass. These two pieces right here are by an artist based out of Long Beach named Shay Bredimus. Shay may or may not be with us on the Zoom call tonight. I believe he RSVP'd. And Shay is just really talented. His figures are so delicate. When you look really close at this fused glass piece, it feels like the figure is actually breathing. This is one of my favorites in the show. And then next to it, he did another piece specifically for this exhibition. It's called Ascension of the Spirit. I took him on a behind the scenes tour of our great mausoleum, and we have dozens and dozens of statues, all these 11 different terraces, all these staircases, and lots of classical and neoclassical architecture. He was so inspired by that he made this piece, and the figures are supposed to be sort of reminiscent of statues or spirits, or sort of both. So you get that feel of the Great Mausoleum. And then the frame itself, he collaborated with a obviously specialist frame designer. It's really impressive piece. This is the first time it's ever been exhibited. So very excited to show that off. And right next to him, we have three pieces by Joe Gurgis, who is on the call tonight. And this piece is brand new. It was finished over the summer. It was going to be finished right before the show started, but it was actually finished over the summer. It's over 5 feet tall. And Joe he teaches art. He's a painter. He does etchings, a lot of different media, now glass art. And he actually taught Shay at Laguna College of Art and Design. So it's neat to have sort of the teacher and student as peers right next to each other. He's a printmaker, and you see the Japanese wave in the background there, and then the more traditional European inspiration with the struggling stag figure. Is so dramatic, and it's not about death. There is a skull down there. It's more about sort of rebirth, regeneration, sort of cycles of life. And then, I love the water is very dramatic. And then right here, this is actually we included the original sketch. I was very kind of Joe to include that. And you see a couple elements, the mushrooms falling, sort of about regeneration. Those actually were not included in the final piece, but it's neat to sort of compare and contrast initial vision and final piece. These two lanterns are by Danny Tull, who is a Highland Park-based artist, multimedia artist. And these are really great. They really sort of anchor the space. They're inspired by Antoni Gaudí, the Catalan artist, and they have that sort of distorted Gothic, almost psychedelic Gothic feel to them. They're very cool. And the pieces on the ground are by Alice Wang, who is another LA-based artist. And these have to be sort of the most different compared to any other piece in the entire exhibition. The reflections of the other artworks are really great. They're sort of, Alice works in a lot of different media, and they're kind of, they're sort of like an extraterrestrial ooze that's on the ground. And I knew they would reflect the other artworks, but they've actually sort of surpassed my expectations. That's the face of Christ reflected and distorted right there. And then this series, I believe these are by, or I know these are by Jane Brucker. I believe Jane is on the call with us tonight. It's a series of chairs dedicated to Elizabeth Milbank Anderson, and she was an early 20th century public health advocate. And these include stained glass, fused glass, sort of inserted into these antique chairs, and it creates this sort of conversation piece, sort of the sort of counter anchor, counterweight at the other end of a very large gallery. And these are fused glass and stained glass in them. And then the final section is Judson Studios in the Hall of Crucifixion and Resurrection. So right next to the museum, so it's the museum on the right and the Hall of Crucifixion and Resurrection on the left. And Judson did the windows for these from 1949 to 1951. The building was built to house this enormous 195-foot wide painting of the crucifixion. But then you enter through this Gothic entranceway inspired by Notre Dame Cathedral, and Judson did all of these. So it's great to get up close and personal in the galleries with the pieces and then see them sort of installed in a proper grand context, and that's the 11-foot wide rose window right there. So you sort of get best of both worlds in the exhibition. That's close-up of the rose window. And I think rose windows look cool from the outside. That was me playing with my drone over the summer. And these are some up-close shots right there. That concludes my little tour. So I don't want to hog the time too much. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to stop sharing, and believe we've stopped the sharing there. Okay. Now we can begin. Welcome back.
All right, that's pretty good, James. We should just leave it right there, maybe.
All right. I'll grab that beer now.
Amazing exhibit.
And thank you so much. You know, I think our first meeting, we were introduced by Gloria Williams, who's a curator at the Norton Simon. She's like, "Oh, you got to meet this guy, David." And you came by and you saw the galleries, and you're like, you know, I'm working on this book. And I was like, okay, this could work.
Yeah.
The rest is history.
That's right.
So let me I'm gonna pull up my questions here. I want to